Before I start, the demo for Ascendant Dawn is available on Steam for free via the link in the description. If you enjoy it, leave a review. This dev blog goes over some improvements I've recently made to the map of Ascendant Dawn. Previously, I've gotten feedback suggesting the map is a bit bland or empty, and this is something that's definitely true. I feel it lacks life, there's not much going on, a lot of it's just plains and sparse forests. So I set out to solve the problem. Firstly, I killed two birds with one stone. Previously, to blend my mountains into the terrain, I've been using something called pixel depth offset, where pixels are moved backwards, essentially, based on how close they are to the terrain here. However, that has one problem. The pixels are not properly accounting for the shadows, meaning I had to turn shadows off of the mountains, which, while it's okay, doesn't look great. So to solve this, I'm using something called a runtime virtual texture, which is essentially a texture you just write data to from other textures, and then it can be read. So what I do is I write data from the landscapes texture to the mountains, and that makes it look like they're part of the landscape for a little bit before they turn into proper mountains. And I've also used this to create roads. And the problems with creating roads using a more conventional method is that if I try to paint them onto the landscape, they would look far too thick, as that's the minimum kind of size that a layer can be encoded into the landscape. If I try to use a mesh, they would be above the landscape, so would not look good either. Instead, by using the runtime virtual texture, I can draw a thin line on the landscape, which looks like an actual road. The only problem with these roads is they're not actually dynamic. They're a road and they go between points, and it doesn't matter if there's a city there, how big the city is, none of that. So in the future, I definitely want to make them actually dynamic, so they're maybe there or not, depending on if there's a city or not. The thing that is dynamic, however, is the farmland. The farmland also uses runtime virtual textures. The size of the farmland is based on the amount of farms in the nearby city. So an agricultural city or just a large city with a lot of farms is going to have a lot of farmland next to it, whereas one that doesn't have farms isn't going to have so many. I actually have one more channel I can code something on for my runtime virtual texture. So if you have any ideas for things I can add, leave them in the comments. I also added ranches as a kind of mesh. And these are very similar to farms in that it's based on the number of buildings, but this time the buildings are the number of ranches. There's also trade outposts, which are near roads, though they're based on the number of trade connections a city has. I also added ships to the sea, but these are purely decorative. They move between preset ports, and I would like to in the future tie them to the trade relations between different factions. And I'd also like to do a lot of properly adding in naval mechanics as well, but that's a later thing. If you enjoy this video and want to learn more about Ascendant Dawn, or just some game development topics in general, then like and subscribe, and definitely wishlist my game on Steam and play the demo. So thank you for watching.